Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. Good morning, guys. It is Friday morning. We are obviously looking forward, or building up, perhaps not looking forward is the wrong word, to obviously the game this weekend. Although people are apparently voting with their feet and numbers are down. Still, I think a lot of tickets have been sold, unfortunately. I think there's a lot of fans that have still gone out and bought tickets. Guys, if you've bought a ticket for this weekend, shame on you. You shouldn't be going to the game. You should be leaving Ibrox empty and letting this manager know that we don't back him or support him. Rangers Fan Advisory Board have met with Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell. We'll have a little bit on that. Proof positive that both Thelwell and Stewart are absolutely out of touch and not fit to be part of our football club. Both should be on the way out of the door with Russell Martin as soon as is humanly possible. Andrew Kavanagh is here. He is in Glasgow. Apparently has jetted in for this weekend's game in a real make or break situation for Russell Martin. And a former player, a former manager who was linked with the club has been re-linked with the club. We'll talk and discuss that a little bit as well here on the pod this morning. Right, let's get straight on with that fan advisory board meeting. A fan advisory board meeting took place between Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thelwell and the Rangers fan advisory board, at which there was only one topic, and that was the future of manager Russell Martin. The fan advisory board put across to Stewart and to Thelwell just how much Martin is loathed, disliked and not trusted by the fan base. However, the club restated their position of fully backing the manager. I think it's yet more positive proof that both Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart are not fit to run this football club. Kevin Thelwell is probably, I think replacing Niels Coppen with Kevin Thelwell is clearly a very, very bad move. Thelwell, who was a disaster at Everton, is now taking his disastrous strategies and philosophies to Rangers and cursing us with Russell Martin. He's already made it clear that, in his opinion, Russell Martin is the best manager he's worked with. Well, that's quite worrying. Or is that just the fact that, the likes of Sean Dyche and so on and so on and so forth were absolutely shite? I don't know, maybe that's it. Personally speaking, I think he's talking out of the top of his head. If you look at Martin's CV, Martin is by far one of the worst managers we've ever seen at the football club, and Kevin Thelwell clearly is portraying the fact that he knows jack all about football. On that same note, Patrick Stewart, as we know, is someone who is very ready to criticise the fans, very ready to turn on the fans, and a guy who is genuinely loathed by the fan base and is certainly the subject of the protest that will take place this weekend by the Union Bears, who are seeking to get both Martin and Stewart out of this football club. And we certainly hope that Parag Marathe and Andrew Kavanagh listen to what is being said. I think obviously a lot depends on what the result is. If Rangers do somehow manage to beat Hibernian, then I think that's Martin safe till probably about for another 2 to 3 weeks, at least another month, unfortunately. It's a really tricky one for me. Of course I want Rangers to win this weekend. Of course I want us to be successful and, to win games. But part of me actually wants us to lose this weekend just so we can get rid of this absolutely useless, idiotic, vegan, woke, moronic, clueless manager. Even Barry Ferguson has come out and criticised the team building activities that Russell Martin did, that really made us a laughing stock of Scottish football and a laughing stock of European football. This man clearly is just ridiculous. He is absolutely ridiculous. And I've got to say, you guys know my feelings towards Tav, towards Dessers. I absolutely loathe Russell Martin with an absolute passion. There's not many people in this world I genuinely really, really, really hate with a passion. I'm not going to get political and talk about my politics, but Russell Martin is certainly up there with one of the most hated people, I think, in the world at the moment, in my sort of Rangers American football world at the moment. And I really do despise the man with a passion. This is what the fan advisory board have had to say, though. The statement they put out said this: "We had a full and frank discussion this afternoon lasting more than 2 hours with CEO Patrick Stewart, sporting director Kevin Thelwell and other club officials. No note as to who they were. We reiterated the fans' collective strength of feeling on the performance of the manager, as well as other issues relating to the men's first team that continue to cause great concern to the Rangers support. It'd be interesting to read in the minutes what those other issues are." What was brought up at that point? Nothing was left off the table, which is interesting. And again, it'd be interesting to see what's in the minutes and what's been left out of the minutes. We appreciate the club dedicating the full agenda to football matters and answering questions raised. Other items on wider club issues will be addressed on a separate meeting in the near future. So it's quite clear that the whole meeting was on the subject of Russell Martin, of the team's underperformance, of the lack of clarity on that matter. The club continues to back the manager, a stance we forcibly challenged. And it just goes on to say full minutes will be released. Look, I'm glad that they've challenged it. I'm glad that they've kind of said that we don't agree, that we want the manager out. I think what is more worrying is the fact that they are becoming so intransigent on this, that they are refusing to move on this. Obviously, there was the worrying reports earlier in the week that Stewart and Thelwell apparently are holding Kavanagh Marathe to ransom with their demand that if Martin goes, they will also go as well, leaving the club obviously short in key positions. Personally, couldn't give a monkeys. At the end of the day, I'm sure we can find people to replace them quite easily. Andrew Kavanagh, Parag Marathe are not stupid men. They're very good businessmen. I mean, one thing I will bring up is something that was said by Parag Marathe right back at the very start of the Rangers AGM when he took over, was that the 49ers are used to hiring the very best people and they only hire the very best people, which does beg the question, Mr. Marathe, how you could ever think that Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart, I know you didn't hire him, but you still retained his services, and Russell Martin are the very best people, because, quite frankly, they have proven that they are not the very best people. I mean, getting away from Kevin Thelwell and Russell Martin and the underperformance on the field and the poor performances that have been put across by the team and the transfer strategy, which has left a lot to be desired, which has left us short in a number of key positions. That is down to Kevin Thelwell, obviously. Patrick Stewart has singly proved on a number of occasions that he is not fit to run a football club. With his attitude towards the fans, for example, being the primary situation, and of course his backing of the manager. This man is an Aberdeen fan. He looks like Ferengi from Star Trek. Sorry about that. A little bit of a side there. Trying to lighten it up a little bit. But a guy who is quite frankly one of the worst CEOs in European football. He does need sacked, and sacked ASAP. Quite worrying that this is still the situation. Obviously, Andrew Kavanagh is here. Hopefully, he will see the situation and hopefully take action promptly. Like I said, a lot does depend on what the result is this weekend. One name that has reoccurred again on the managerial merry-go-round, the discussion. Now, the club have come out and said that they have not yet met with or discussed with any managerial candidates over the replacement of Russell Martin, which, look, you can kind of see that was never going to be the case, because at the end of the day, you don't do that. You don't go behind your manager's back. It's like cheating on your missus. You just don't do it. But he said that, that managers have approached them. Now, this is all through back channel contact, which goes on. We know it goes on. We know that all the situation, like with players getting tapped up by clubs, we know that players, that their representatives, that managers and representatives meet with unofficial officials, if you get my meaning, from clubs and discuss possibilities of taking over. Most clubs want to have that succession planning in place. They don't want to be left with a situation where if they do sack their manager, there is nobody on the horizon to come in and take over. Now, one person who was allegedly interviewed at the time, and that hasn't been denied at any point by anybody, was Davide Ancelotti, son of the legendary Italian manager Carlo Ancelotti. Davide Ancelotti, who is currently the Botafogo boss in Brazil, who started, superbly well as manager of Botafogo. He did exceptionally well in his first early days in that role. However, the story is that, just in recent times, things have gone a little bit awry, and they've been knocked out of the Brazilian Cup. They haven't done so well in the league recently, and fans are calling for Ancelotti's departure from the club. Things out there are very, very different, to expectations in terms of what they expect their team to do. Overall, Botafogo this season, like I said, did start exceptionally well, but have kind of fallen away in recent times. They drew 3-3 yesterday with Mirassol, which was seen as being a bit of a disastrous kind of result for them. They currently sit 5th in the league. Mirassol sit 4th. This season they've played 22, won 10, drawn 6, lost 6, 36 points, 33 goals for, 17 goals against, certainly a lot tighter, and won 2 only out of their last 5, and are currently way behind Flamengo and Cruzeiro at the top of the league, 11 points behind Cruzeiro. 10 points behind Palmeiras and 14 points behind Flamengo. Now, I don't know the relative strengths of Flamengo, Cruzeiro and Palmeiras, but, look, obviously this is his first job, Ancelotti. Now, Ancelotti has vowed to fight on for the final 17 games with Botafogo. However, it seems that this speculation around his future at Botafogo has again now started a rumour mill around him possibly being looked at again for the Rangers job. Now, look, I personally think this is a bit of lazy journalism. I don't think there's a lot of truth in this or a lot of legs in this. The way I'd look at it is this. Ancelotti was turned down effectively for the job first time round, and Russell Martin was picked over him. Ancelotti, I would hazard a guess, would not want the job now, that he would kind of say, I ain't taking it when I'm second best. He's not going to come back. In a bit like, I suppose, the rumour around Kevin Muscat not wanting it after being turned down for Philippe Clement. I think there's probably a little bit of that in it. I mean, look, I don't say that Ancelotti would be a bad appointment. I mean, he would be, I think, another project, another experimental project. And I think possibly this time, where we are as a club and where we need to be as a club, he would not be the right appointment, given what has gone on. I think in the summer it would have been a different matter. He could have stamped his own brand on things. He could have been an influence on who came in. Obviously, all those things he's lost now. So, I think whoever manager we appoint, if Russell Martin is sacked, please God, then we do need someone with more experience, I think, to come in and take over at the club. Someone with a depth of knowledge and a depth of experience who knows the Scottish game to some degree, I think, and can hit the ground running right from day one. I don't think we have time, with where we are in the season and how we are at the moment in terms of performances, to have that bedding in period. We do need, I think, someone with that experience, and I don't think Ancelotti is that person. Someone like a Steven Gerrard, a Derek McInnes, certainly. The guy, I think it's Stephen Robinson, who's the St Mirren manager. I think he would be a very good appointment as well. I mean, he's certainly someone whose star is on the rise in the Scottish game, and I think, at Rangers with a budget, he could do a lot better, and I think he could be a very. I think as far as I'm aware, it's him who is the manager. Look, realistically, I have this sneaking suspicion that we will somehow manage to fluke a victory this weekend, and Russell Martin will be safe for another 2 to 3 weeks, unfortunately, because of how things are stacking up, because of the fact that Kavanagh is here, because of the strength of fan feeling, because the fall off in Euro packages being sold, the fall off in ticket sales, all the cards are kind of aligning to get him out, that it won't kind of go that way, and that he will survive for another 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll have to put up with his boring, droning voice for another 6 or 7 games. I think CJ Novo's video the other day was brilliant, saying that basically he said the same thing over and over and over again in press conferences. But that's what he's saying in press conferences. What is he saying to the players? It's a really interesting one, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, on the way out, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.